Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of Becoming More Me. I'm your host, Teresa Lear Levine, and this is your podcast. If you are a busy minded entrepreneur who wants to be more and do less, maybe even use pleasure as the fuel for your next level success. I cannot wait to introduce you to my guest today, who is Dr. Anna Marie Frank. She's coming to us from California. She is a doctor of natural naturopathy and PhD in natural medicine. She is the founder of Happy Whole You Wellness Centers and creator of a really unique brain nutraceutical line that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a lot of really cool things today because her wellness centers are decked out with some of the coolest gizmos and gadgets. She's committed to advancing brain health, and she is also the author of Stop Bullying Yourself, which guides readers towards improved health, wealth, and happiness, embodying her holistic and continuous learning approach to well-being. So let's dive in and see what we can learn from Dr. Anna Marie Frank. It all starts now. Hi, Anna Maria. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm really excited to dive in. From looking over your bio and everything else, I am pretty sure that maybe we're twins with different certifications. So I'm really excited to unravel a few things together. Can you just introduce yourself a little bit from a personal level, just like we're catching up as best friends? Just tell me about your personal life, where you live, what you love to do, hobbies, those kind
Yes.
of things, and just we'll leave work aside for a minute.
Oh, I love that. Yes. So I'm out here in Bakersfield, California. It's really hot. So I like to wake up early, go for my walks. I have a couple kids, three dogs. My son is going to start high school this next week, and it's tripping me out. I'm like, he's my oldest. So I
Okay.
feel
How
like
old's your other?
she's 12.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, I feel like I don't know how I have a high school child because I feel like I'm still a child inside. It's like I feel old and young all at the same time. So that's happening in my life. A husband, we've been married for over 15 years, and yeah, I love being active and running my business and being with my kids and just eating food. I love food.
Me too.
Yes. So give me a good new restaurant or a hole in the wall somewhere and the one thing on the menu that everybody goes there for, and I am there for it.
Oh, that's so me also. Any trip or vacation or whatever is typically engineered around food. My husband likes to
Yes.
engineer them around ice cream. It's just food makes everything better. So
Yes,
that's awesome.
understandable.
And tell me a little bit about your business and how you help people.
Yeah, so thank you. I opened Happy Whole You 6 years ago. So we're a brick and mortar. We focus on holistic health. So I combine high tech with old school Chinese medicine modalities, energy medicine, and I've been in the industry of well-being for over 20 years. And this was just a natural progression in my career. I always wanted to have my own space where people could come, feel safe, you know, feel like they're being pampered,
Yeah.
and taken care of on a cellular level, on an energetic level. And so this is
Those
the
are my
fourth.
favorite kind of spas, the one where you actually get a
Yeah.
lasting benefit and some kind of a health
Yeah.
upgrade instead of just
Yes.
relaxing for an hour or so.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, so you get both here. You get the resting and you get the restorative and the compound effect of what we do here. This is my fourth Happy Whole You that I've opened. During the pandemic, we sold a couple of them. They were in other states. So I
Okay.
learned a lot in that process.
So do you
And
just operate one now?
just one, I found that I like to run my center, and I'm more of I like to help people. They can help create the same type of vibe. But I don't want to own them all. It's like that doesn't make me tick. So I've learned, after hitting 40, when you're in your 40s, you start to realize, what do I want to spend my time on?
Oh yeah.
Why am I here? What is my purpose? And anything that's pulling from that, I have been doing a really good job of saying, that's not for me. Whereas the old me was like, oh, yeah, well, I could do that. Of course. Yeah, I could do that. I'm good at that. Like
Yeah.
just because you're good at something, just because you can do something doesn't mean that it is in
You should do
alignment.
it.
Yes. So, that's something that comes with, I feel like with age that,
Oh, yes.
we
The
start to
40s are my
realize
favorite decade yet. How about you?
100%. The best thing I did when I turned 40, I actually was working 18 years. I had a career for 18 years. And I was doing corporate wellness and teaching. And I was good at what I did. I really did love what I was doing. I knew I was making a difference. I knew I was helping people, but it wasn't like my soul was tugging at me saying, you need to really step out. You need to really step up, and I knew, but I stayed there because I was making six figures. I had all the retirement. The health insurance, you check every single box.
That's what we're
And
supposed to do. That's how
yeah,
we're raised to
right,
work and produce and,
right.
check those boxes, but it doesn't mean the soul's fulfilled.
It doesn't. And what was crazy is 8 years prior to getting that ultimate, what I said was my dream job. Like this was like, if I get this job, this is my dream job. This is what I'm going to be doing. 8 years goes by and it's no longer my dream job. And so a part of me felt guilty. Like you wanted this, you created this big thing, and then you're going to walk away from it. And, so then it's like everybody else's voices are in your head. But I was like, you know what? When I
We
turned
created the
40,
box. Like,
100%,
and then
100%.
we're like, oh, we can't grow outside of the box that we created.
Right. So, yeah. So I told myself, okay, when you're 40, you're going. You're walking away. You're going all into happy, whole you, and you're not going to look back. And I did that. And it was scary and it was fun. And I'll tell you what, the day that I knew was like my last day, I call it my retirement day from my W-2 job. I literally felt the weight of the world drop off of me. Like, I think some people would think, well, then it got really scary because you really did it. And it was actually the opposite for me. It was more scary to make the decision. But once I made that decision and was like, betting on myself, and that's the thing. It's like, if you bet on yourself, like, that's the way to go. And
Yeah.
I haven't looked back. So, that's been a really exciting thing. So yes to 40s. Hell yes to 40s. Sorry, I hope we could kind of
Oh,
stay
please
for here.
do.
Um,
Yes. So
but
what
yeah,
year were you born? I feel like we're the same age too.
I was born in 82.
Oh, you're younger than me. Okay, I'm a 78 baby. So
Okay. 4 years. It's 4 years.
gotcha. I thought when you
Yeah.
said when you left the one at 40 and you said you'd had Happy Whole You for 6 years, I was like, are we the same age too?
So I started it when I had my job. So
Gotcha.
this is the other
Overlapped it a bit.
thing. Yes, I've always been an entrepreneur. I used to day trade, invest in real estate, train people on the side. And one thing that I think is really important, and research actually backs this up, is that if you can leverage where you're at in say a W-2 job, safe job, if you can leverage that to build something on the side, then you make a calculated decision of when to leave. And I think it was something like there was a study, I think it was at Harvard, like 30%, over 30% of entrepreneurs that do that, that go into the job that they are, or the career that they're creating, the business succeed over somebody that just, jumps in and hopes
Yeah,
for the best. So it is a calculated decision, especially when you have kids. Let's be
definitely.
honest. It's no longer just me to worry about anymore.
I get that too. I got four boys over here. So,
Yep.
yeah. So tell me, was it any kind of personal struggle or personal story that led you into being so passionate about this work?
Oh my gosh, yes. So I struggled with my mental health since I was in high school, but like you would look at my life, I was an athlete, I got good grades. You would say, what does she have to be sad about? And back then, we didn't call it depression. You just kind of kept
Yeah.
these feelings you just kept to yourself. You didn't talk to anyone about them because I don't know, you didn't want people to think you were crazy. And I ended up just like really feeling alone, depressed in high school. And then I thought, once I go to college, I'll go to university, everything, it'll get better, right? Because I can reinvent myself, things will be better. Well, then I found myself in college, still not happy. not taking care of myself like I should have, and then went to graduate. And then I thought, if I move, then I'll feel. I grew up in Michigan. I went to Western Michigan University. So I was either going to move to Florida, New York, or California. And that was going to solve my problems. So I ended up moving to California and thinking, okay, now I'm going to have a job. I'm going to have all these things, and now I'll be happy, right? You know how we chase that carrot?
Oh yeah, we think the answer's outside of ourselves, and all the
Yes.
while it was right in here.
Yep. So then I started my career, really got really depressed and feeling guilty. And then I moved across the country and I would be a failure if I moved back home. And, like all these thoughts going on my head. And so then I thought, oh, well, you have health insurance. So go see a doctor. They're going to help you, they're going to fix you. So I go to a psychiatrist. I spend about 15 minutes with a psychiatrist. He puts me on 3 mind altering medications at 22, 23 years old. I proceeded to go get worse and worse and worse. And I kept going back, trying to change my medications, all these things. And luckily, through that whole process, there was one day I went in and something happened in that office and completely changed my life forever.
What was
And in
that?
that moment, I realized you are the only person that can make you happy. You are the only person that's going to fix you. And I just walked out of there. I threw my prescriptions in the trash and I stepped outside, and it was like I saw the trees green for the first time. The sky was blue for the first time. It was like I started to see the world very differently. And I think the reason I felt so empowered is because I was choosing to decide for myself.
Sure.
I was no longer looking outside myself, and that type of strength, I hadn't felt that before.
Or
And so
depending
that,
on a doctor's answers.
right.
Help you. I
Yeah.
know I was in a similar situation and with car accidents I had in my late teens and early 20s, and it's like they just write the scripts and just take and then you do it because that's what you're told to do when you have a
Yeah.
problem and you go to the doctor. And I did, but it led me into this like rabbit hole of like decreased self-worth, and it ate
Mhm.
away at my confidence, and it was such a horrible time in that like coming into adulthood to be going
Yes.
through that. And yeah, it's tough. So, I had my
Yeah.
own way of coming out of it also, but I'm glad that you found the empowerment to step back into your own power and to make decisions for yourself. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. And what people don't realize is, our brain isn't even remotely fully developed until we're around 25 years old.
Yeah.
So to be putting these young people on medications that are mind altering, I feel like is very criminal. And then the other thing that people don't talk about is that time between 18 and 25 is such a fragile time.
Yeah.
I mean, we are being forced to grow up so fast. And I feel like kids are being forced to grow up so fast, even more so than ever. And then being a woman, you know, it's like, okay, now you get to go work in a man's world in terms of, the 9 to 5,
Yep.
Monday through Friday, like with our
24-hour
cycles.
cycles.
Yeah, like it's just, we are all wired differently. And, it's just, and we're not taught how to take care of ourselves. We're not taught anymore how to
Nope.
think for ourselves and how to ask questions.
Can
And
you imagine
so,
if we were like in a
oh,
world where like preschoolers and young grade schoolers were taught about the subconscious mind and about the nervous system and about how to like nourish
yeah.
those things and to rewire them, like how powerful we might actually all feel.
Yeah, I mean, well, we all know, and there's no conspiracy here, but the reason that our school systems are the way they are is because of, if you go back in the history of the United States, with the Rockefellers, they wanted to create employees, they wanted
Yep.
to create workers. So
My
they
soon
no
to be ninth
longer,
grader will tell you all about it because he thinks
uh,
the system needs a major change.
100%, 100%. Instead of asking people, what do you want to be when you grow up? We ask this question. It's like, who do you want to be? How do you want to be? How do you want to show up in the world? What difference do you want to make? These are the questions I'm asking my kids.
Yeah.
Not what do you want to be, like,
Or what do you want to do?
yeah, or what do you want to do? Like, it's like it's a way of being that I
Hmm.
think we need to be more focused on. And then when we focus on our way of being and how we want to show up in the world, that leads us to our purpose.
Sure.
and what we're here and we're meant to do. But yeah, those conversations are not normally had.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of that hustling and that striving and that trying to prove ourselves out of the equation that I'm sure you
Yeah.
can probably relate to as well as I can, and
Yeah.
going certification crazy or whatever,
Yep.
just try and
Oh God, I
be
know.
worth it and be enough.
I
If we could
know.
just come from that place of being, we would do a lot less and we would
Yeah.
actually be a lot more,
Yeah.
be able
And
to
that's,
slow down.
yeah, and that, I mean, all that comes from that programming, from when we were younger. I
Yeah,
know that the certification, I mean, I could not literally tell you how many certifications I have. I
either.
have no idea, and I have a zillion of them. And one thing I realized is I have this thing in the back of my mind that plays that says, "You're not smart enough, you're not good enough." And that has really made me show up in life in a way where I'm constantly trying to prove myself. I'm constantly just trying to show that I'm smart. And once I started to realize that this was like leading me in life, I had to like take a step back because and I feel like a lot of it draws back to I couldn't read well until I don't even know, probably college. But I remember in second grade, my teacher told me I would never amount to anything if I didn't learn how to read. And in my little 8, 9 year old mind, I was like, I can read. I just can't comprehend what I'm reading. I could read a whole page and then you'd ask me what I read, and I'd be like, I don't know. But I could read all the words, right? And so I always felt like I was stupid. And I felt like, the smart kids would get the thick hardcover books and I would get the floppy little skinny book. And that just stuck with me. And so I'm like, no, being older now and looking back now, I'm like, oh, no wonder you like
Right.
wanted to get a PhD and you went and got a zillion certifications and da da da. Da. So now
You
I
can have
have
that
to,
self-compassion.
yes, and I have to consciously say, okay, do you need this certification, or can you seek out this information without getting the certification? Because you don't need a certification to prove your worth anymore, And so I
Nobody
do
ever
have to,
asks me to see a certification. I don't think anybody's ever once
no,
asked me to see a certification.
no, they
They
don't.
just want to know, like, can you help me? Yes or no?
Right. I mean, it's so
Will you
interesting,
be there
right?
for me? Like,
Yes. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, so it's interesting how we show up in life programmed through negativity. And that negativity is actually some of our biggest strengths, but then at the same time, it's our biggest weakness. So, one thing I've had to let go in my life is it's not my job to prove myself or convince anyone of anything.
right.
And being a business owner, people walk through that door and, they are like in awe of what we have and what we've created. And so that's great because they're here, they can see it, they can feel it, they could do it. But what I did find is when even this is even 6 years ago, I would go to things and like try to explain to them all the cool things we were doing. And I'm so excited and it's going to work for you. And these are the things. And then what I started to realize is I'm like, here you are trying to prove yourself. Here you are trying to convince people of things. So now when I meet people, I'm like, oh, I have this really beautiful facility. Come check it out. It might be for you. It might not be, but
Yeah.
have a look and you may find something that works for you, like so it's like when you let that go, it's like, oh my God, you feel so free.
Yeah, because you become like with the law of attraction, you become attractive instead of repelling by trying to
Hmm.
like sell and push and everything else. It's just kind of like, hey, come
Yeah.
check it out. Just kind of like
Yeah.
the vibes flow in, that your
Right.
vibration's higher, it all matches up, and it works so much easier than we've been taught it can work, you
Yes,
know?
yes.
So, what are some of your favorite like gadgets, treatments, things that you have in that amazing center of yours?
Oh my gosh, well, one of my favorite things to do with people, and I do this in person, I also do it remotely with people, so which is awesome because then I get to see people from all over. Um, but I do this full body quantum intake. It takes about 2 hours, but I do a combination of where I do use biofeedback.
Mhm.
But then I use iridology. So I look at your eyes, or some people, if they're remote, they'll send me photos. Look at your face. I look at your tongue. I look at your fingernails. So I see what physical observations is the body giving off in terms of your foundations of health. So
Sure.
where do we need to restore your foundations? The other thing is I'm listening to how someone is speaking about their life. I'm listening to the words that they're using. So there's so many things subtly going on during our session together. And then what we do, I use my own intuition as well, and create a game plan of how can you support your foundations of health? How can you think and speak about your life in a different way that's going to change the biochemical makeup of what's going on within you? And so when I do these sessions, they walk away with, a game plan. And maybe it's, seeing a different practitioner, or maybe it's what foods they tested sensitive to and to try to avoid or limit the intake of. What are some foods that you can bring into your life that are going to actually really nourish you? And then, are you deficient in any macro, micro minerals, amino acids? What's going on with your hormones, your digestion function, your brain? What type of brain do you have? Are you an anxious, ADD person? Are you, more having more of a depressed brain? And there's these different brain types. I do have training from the Dr. Amen clinics. And so we look at the brain type you have. What exercises are you doing or are you not doing? Like someone who's anxious should not be doing high intensity interval training.
Hey, interrupting this episode super quick because I'll bet you didn't know that you can hop on a free, no strings, 15-minute call with me and get answers and insights into those things that are challenging you the most in your life and business right now. And receive several insights from me that will really help you to start moving the needle in those areas where you desire transformation, be it your business, your personal life, your health, wealth, relationships, all the things. So go to gamechangingconversation.com, select a time, and we will meet and have a conversation about what's going on in your life and the outcomes that you would most like to create in the next several months. Can't wait to meet you and chat with you on a call. Now back to the episode.
If you struggle with anxiety, you should not be doing that. So we look at how do we, calm that nervous system, but yet, find exercises and things to do to best support you. So that one is by far my favorite thing to do with people because I get to like really know them.
Yeah, and it sounds super
And
high value for the recipient because they're getting a
oh
ton
yeah,
of information from that
yeah.
single session.
Oh, I mean, yes, it's so great.
I've been
So
amazed
that's,
similarly with other kind of quantum techniques like hair testing and stuff like
oh
that, the
yeah,
amount of
yeah.
data that comes back from that with like the bioenergetics and things.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so that's probably by far my favorite thing to do with people. And then I'll do like executive coaching with people. And then like in-house here, we have medical grade sauna, we have biocharger, we have beamer therapy, we have cold plunge, we have cryotherapy, theta therapy. We have like all these things that people will come in and be like, how is this like what is all this stuff? Like they may know about a sauna, they may know about cryo, but then they're like, a biocharger, what is that? Or,
What is
we
a
try
biocharger? I don't know if I'm sure what you're talking about when you say a biocharger.
So a biocharger is pretty much a frequency generator machine. It has a Tesla coil up the middle of it. You sit in front of this machine and it gives off infrared therapy, biophoton therapy, and voltage therapy.
Oh,
So I
cool.
always say it's kind of like plugging your body in the wall and charging your trillions of cells, the little mitochondria in all your cells. It's like charging them up, right? Just like you charge your cell phone,
And
we
what
got
is
to
the
charge your
effect of
bodies.
that?
Well, you can feel more energy, but I'll give you a personal experience of using this machine. So probably about 6 years ago, 6 years ago, I was running a lot and training for marathons, and my right knee, I couldn't like cross my leg over. It was like swell up. It was just like very inflamed. And I went to this event and there was this biocharger there, and literally people are sitting around it and it's like flashing these lights. I'm like, what in the goodness gracious is this thing? Like, this is so bananas. And I'm like, so I'm so skeptical, by the way. So
Oh,
I'm
me too.
like,
That's
oh
probably what
God.
makes us great at sleuthing
Y-
things out, though.
Yes, I know. Like, if you would have told me that the way I think of things now, because I work a lot with energy medicine and frequency. If I mean, even like 6, 7 years ago, I would have been like, "Ooh, I don't know. Like, I need to see the studies on that." Like, and now that I see firsthand how this impacts people's health and well-being, it's like, oh yeah, like this is like I don't know why I didn't know about this a long time ago. But anyways, so I go to the guy and I'm like, okay, I need to know what's happening here. And he's like, blah, 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 all these things. And I'm like, okay, I don't even know what any of that means, but what would you say I do? And he's like, well, what's bothering you? And I said, my knee. I'm like, I can't even like cross my knee. It's like really frustrating. So he's like, okay, he did this 15. I sat in front of this machine for 15 minutes. And then he goes, okay, cross your leg, like cross your knee. And I'm like, okay. And I did it. And I was like, what is happening? I'm like, okay, I know placebo effects works 30% of the time. Okay, that's great. Placebo or not, my knee feels better. This is nuts. I go along the conference doing my thing and I can't get this thing out of my head. Come back home and a few months go by. My knee still feels better. Then it starts, I'm running still and it starts to swell a little bit, but never got as bad as it did that time. And so I looked up like where can I go and do one of these treatments somewhere around me. And so I had to drive and go find a machine. I did it. I'm like, I want this knee setting thing. I did it at this conference and did it again and again, improvement. And so then I like called the company. I was like, I need to buy one of these. And actually, when I talked to the company, our Bakersfield, California, our space, we are the top, like in turn, they're called recipes. So you sit in front of the machine, we program it for whatever the client is working on. And when we do our sessions, we usually do 3 recipes for someone. And we use the most recipes out of like any facility in the States that has a biocharger. We use this thing. I mean, it
A
is like
lot.
a lot. I write it into people's programs like all the time. And I say, you like sit in front of me, like, is this really doing anything? And then you're like, holy crap, like once you start doing it a few times. But if you have something very like chronic
Acute,
or
like what you
acute,
did. It sounds like it was pretty tangible, the
yes.
results that you were able to see.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like I
So
do a lot with
it's pretty
energy
cool.
medicine too, and like EFT
Hmm.
tapping. And I always tell people, I'm like, if we
Yes.
can if we can tap on something that's tangible to start with,
Yeah.
then your skepticism will go right out the window
A hundred
because
percent.
you'll know that that craving is gone or that pain in your body is gone,
Hmm.
and then we can work on like the money
Yes.
blocks and the the
Yes.
productivity, the focus, all those things that are not quite as tangible right out of the
Yes.
gates, and really start
Hmm.
peeling those layers back. So it's got to be really similar.
Yes, because what people don't realize is it's all about energy, right? If we go inside every single cell in our body till we can't go any further, the only thing that's left is energy. So to not address the energetics of the human body, I believe we miss a whole aspect of healing. And with tapping, with therapies we use here, people don't realize that by doing those things, we're actually moving energy through.
Right.
And so, if energy is blocked in the body at any point, whether it's emotional blockage, whether it's just a physical energy that's blocked, that's like manifesting in the muscles or whatnot, it will cause dis-ease. And I always say, like, compare it to your cell phone. You go into a building, an old building, and your cell phone is not working well. The Wi-Fi signal, the energy frequency signal is, and you're like using your phone, be like, oh my gosh, it's such a pain in the butt. I need to go outside. Like, I'm not getting a good signal, right? It's frustrating. Your phone is still working, but it's not working to the full capacity that it could be. This is the same thing with our body. If energy is being blocked and not fully able and freely to move through our meridians, our chakras, our biofield, all of our muscles, all of our organs, we will have dis-ease. We will have things not feeling like they're functioning well. And people do not think of their bodies in that capacity because we've been trained in this country to say, oh, we have to physically be able to touch it or we have to be able to see it. And if you can't do those two things, then, oh, well, it's not real. Well, I got
The
news for you.
best things are believed before they're seen.
Yeah, like how does this thing work? Like, how
Well,
does my
that
cell phone
thing
work?
only exists in your hand because of somebody's thought, which was a belief
Exactly.
before the thing existed.
Yes, yes. And they
So,
communicate through frequency and through energy that we cannot see.
yeah.
But yet you still believe in your cell phone, right? Like it's just, it's craziness. But I mean,
Yes.
again, when I first got in this industry, I thought you just had to eat healthy and exercise. and that would solve all your problems. And what I realized into my late 30s was like, oh no, you really got to get your thoughts right. You
Oh,
can
yeah.
exercise all day long, eat really healthy, but if your mindset is not right, that is going to physically make you ill. That is going to impact your day to day. And so it's encompassing all of it for true healing and true wellness, which is where the happy whole, the wholeness in the company came from. Because it's never just one thing. I mean, if it was just one thing, I mean,
Right.
the way I practice would be way easier. I could just tell everyone, go
Absolutely.
do this one thing and you'll be better.
So you also have your own supplement line, am I right?
Yes, yes.
And
Uh,
what do those different supplements that you have in your line address?
yeah, so in 2020, when we all had extra time on our hands, I was literally at my kitchen counter and I had about 15, 20. I had so many supplements and I'm taking
I
them.
can relate.
Yeah. And so I love the brain. I love mental health and brain health. And I would take these, there was like 6 or 7 of these products with active ingredients in them, and I was taking them out of each bottle and I'm looking at it and I was like, why hasn't anyone put all these ingredients together in like one formula? Because that would be like make my life way easier and I would have more counter space. And my husband would be happy too. Because he's like, why do you have all these bottles? And so I started to look in like, can I put all these raw materials together? Can I formulate this? Like, what would this take? And so I started to do that. And then I formulated my first product called Bright U, which is neuroprotective, anti-inflammatory, and it's a blend of different herbs I was taking. So like ashwagandha, resveratrol, curcumin. So just a whole blend of those. And then I formulated Calm You, which is one of our top products. People don't want to live without it, but it helps take that level of anxiousness kind of off the top, and you're able to just show up in life and do what you need to do. So I'll
Nice.
have people that come to me, they say that they have anxiety every day. Because one of the questions I asked, do you have anxiety daily, weekly, monthly? Not at all. They'll say daily. Okay, daily. Is it more in the morning, more at night, or is it always playing in the background? Depending on how they answer that question, I'll recommend a dosage of the Calm You to try and play with. And they play with the dosage. And usually we reduce their level of anxiousness within 7 days by at least 50%.
That's awesome.
Um,
And I'm sure that's
yes.
something that will be music to the ears of many of the entrepreneurs with high functioning anxiety that listen to this show.
Yes, and that's the thing. It's like so our brains as entrepreneurs, like we do have that way of being that is like always on.
Mm.
And that it can be our superpower, but it can also be our weakness. Because what happens is when you're constantly in that fight or flight and then you're working in the limbic system of the brain, it cuts you off from using your prefrontal cortex, which is your executive function, your executive thinking. And so then when you can tap into that executive function, that executive thinking, this is where your decisions, where ideas can come because you're no longer working in a heightened state of
Yeah,
scarcity
it's
and
traction.
worry. Yes. And it's a very powerful state to be. So just using the Calm You, it's a blend of minerals, vitamins, and herbs, uh, works beautifully. Then we have our Happy You, which is more of, I didn't know because I struggled with depression since I was younger. I never knew that 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut, which is your mood stabilizing hormone, which doctors claim that the reason they put you on an antidepressant is to raise your serotonin. Yet we still don't know if that's really happening when you're taking antidepressants because there's no way to measure brain chemistry. The brain is the only organ in the body doctors are prescribing medication for when they've never scanned it, looked at it, or seen inside of it, which is very alarming. Again, these are things I didn't know until I started asking questions and started to like, what's happening here? But then I realized you need vitamin B6 and you need the amino acid tryptophan to even begin to make serotonin. So these are two important raw materials. So when I formulated Happy You, obviously I put those two in there.
Yeah.
And then I learned about some different other raw materials that I could include in the capsule to give you the best chance to start creating your own serotonin with the building blocks the body needs to even create that mood stabilizing hormone. And yeah, and then the other one, we have a bunch of them, but the last one I'll share with you is called Whole You. It's a liquid food-based multivitamin with minerals, amino acids, fatty acids. I always say it's like that blanket. Like you just drink an ounce of it a day, and it's like that blanket to give you a little touch of a lot of different things that we're probably not getting from our Western diet. And it's just easy. It's like taking 20 pills at once, but you're just doing a shot of it. So those would be
Nice.
the four main flagship products that formulated just out of my own need to not have so many bottles on my counter.
Very cool. That's something I've always thought about because I geek out on supplements too. And I'm like, how difficult was it for you
Yeah.
to create your own line and launch it and then now maintain it and ship it and all those things that happen behind the scenes? What's that part of the business like for you? Hey, before we continue with the episode, one quick question. Have you joined the Becoming More Me community on School? If yes, I'm so grateful for you. And if no, what are you waiting for? I have an amazing free community that houses over $15,000 worth of my most requested resources, things you can start digging into and using today, actionable resources to start changing how you feel and show up in your life. Things that are going to support you on your never-ending journey of becoming, and amazing community members to support you as well. Hop over to school.com. That's SKOOL.com/discovery and put my name in the search bar, Teresa Lear Levine. You will see the Becoming More Me community pop right up, and you can request to join from there. Inside of the community, you will find a full classroom of resources, as well as anything that you need in order to join my small group coaching or my one-on-one coaching. And I can't wait to see you over there. Again, go to www.school.com/discovery, type in my name, Teresa Lear Levine, and request to join the Becoming More Me community. I can't wait to see you there.
I mean, I don't really think about it. I just do it. I think it was such a wonderful educational experience that I never looked at it as like, oh my gosh, this is so much work. I actually looked at it as like, oh my gosh, I'm solving so many problems. For example,
Yeah.
like most of our bottles come with a 2-month supply. So you are saving on shipping, you're saving on, your global footprint, plastics, things like that. The other thing, I found this super interesting. Um, Most capsules, so my capsule, it can hold 750 milligrams of raw material, right? And what I was realizing, I was buying those same size capsules. Say I was buying resveratrol, and I
Mhm.
was getting 100 milligrams of resveratrol in this one pill. Say it cost me, $40 a month for
Sure.
30, whatever. That's only 100 milligrams in a 750 milligram pill. What's the other 650 milligrams of
What else are they
product
filling it with?
in there? Yeah. And so what I realized is they're putting this stuff called magnesium stearate in it and other additives in it because you have to have that to like blend it. But then I realized, oh, magnesium stearate can upset some people's stomach. It's not good for gut health. So you could switch to L-leucine, which is an amino acid that we all need. And that will still help the turning process. You'll still be able to get the product in the supplement. But the thing about like with what I formulated, I'm like, these are like almost 600 milligrams in each in the serving size of the capsule versus only 100 milligrams. And, you know, I don't know. To me, that was like very interesting
That is really interesting.
because
I've never really thought about that. I always just kind of
yeah,
figured that's the ingredients in there and that's that. But it's
they
true.
could
There's got to be
fit
some
so
different
much more.
fillers and other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. They could fit so much more of that active ingredient in there. But I mean, it
So you
does
do
cost.
need a certain quantity of the not active ingredient.
Right, because then otherwise it would stick and it wouldn't be able to get in the capsule is
Okay.
in the process of like encapsulating them.
Interesting.
You don't want like the whole process to like break down every 2 minutes because it'll take you forever to, but again, there's raw materials that are good for the body that you can use. They just cost a little bit more, right? So
Yeah.
using that cost me, say, 50 cents more per bottle. It's to me, I'm like, whatever, like we're going to do this. And then like to use a 2 month supply bottle versus a 30-day supply bottle, you can sell a product for $55 a month on a 30-day versus, if you give them a 2 month at a time and you're selling it for, 98 dollars or whatever, you actually would make more money to sell it to them twice over 2 months versus once over 2 months. So, I mean, little
Yeah.
things like that, but
No,
like,
great little like business nuggets. And I think
yeah.
from the consumer standpoint, like they're happy to have the plastics not get used as much. And also, I think you really do need to be on a supplement for a certain period of time to really know if and what it's doing.
Yeah. And in natural health, we always say 60 to 90 days. Whatever regimen that you're doing can be 60 to 90 days. But if you do have a practitioner that can really figure out where your deficiencies are
Mhm.
and what your body needs, we usually like take things in 30-day increments. So my goal is not, and I sell supplements, my own supplements. My goal is not to have you on our supplements always and forever. So people that are anxious when they get the Calm You, what we usually do is we do microdosing throughout the whole day for the first 2 weeks to 30 days. And then I tell them to start cutting back on how many capsules they're taking until they find that happy medium or until they're completely off the product because now
Yeah.
their system is regulated. And so
Right.
my
So it
goal is
becomes
not
more of a remedy than a supplement.
right. And then it's like, okay, so for those that use the Calm You, they like have a bottle at their house just in case, right? Like the in-laws are coming over. It's the holidays. I got my Calm You. It's like, that's cool, right? But you don't need it every day. Like you really don't. But at first, yes, we need to do it. We're trying to manage the body and get the body back to homeostasis. And that takes something. And then over time, the body does a great job of recalibrating itself if you give it the right things, and then you don't have to take that stuff anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, the name of my show is Becoming More Me. What are the things or the practices or the habits that you like to embody that help you feel like you're always kind of like in the process of becoming the woman that you feel called to be in this world?
Mm. Well, practicing getting quiet, the first hour of my day is very sacred to me.
Me too. So, with two
Ye-
kids, what time do you wake up?
So it just depends. Sometimes I'm waking up at 4:30,
Me
which is
too.
rare, but then 5:30. Like between
Yep,
4:30
me
and
too.
5:30, it just depends on like what I have and when my day's going to start. Am I starting at 7 a.m. today? Am I starting at 8 a.m. today? Like when am
Yeah.
I starting?
So that
But
first hour, what happens?
so that first hour, I get up. I just try not to think of anything. I'm just like going through, brushing my teeth. I'll brush my teeth with my non-dominant hand, my left hand. Sometimes I'll stand on one foot so that I'm just very present in the moment with that. I'll go for a walk, let my dogs in. I just kind of like, I'm not in a rush to do anything, which my day is like literally every minute of my whole day is planned or a client or a podcast or this or that. So that time is just like I go with what feels good for me. And that morning, sometimes I write. Once in a while, I'll listen to something that is, sparking my interest. I'll go back and read notebooks from the past, which I've written in. Um, so it's just there's no rush. It's just my
Yeah.
time in the morning. And then I always like to find a way to be active during my day. That's very important for me to move my body. I know I feel better when I move. It can be just 5 minutes of something. It doesn't have to be like, I mean, going to a gym or anything like that. It's just
Yeah.
intentionally moving my body, getting my heart rate up. Sometimes I'll come into I work at our business is downtown. So sometimes I'll come in and I'll have like 15 minutes and I'm like, and I just walk up the street and I'll walk through the neighborhood and come back. So just anytime I can get quiet.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. I love that. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about all these amazing things that you do and provide?
Yeah, so happywholeyou.com is everything to our brick and mortar. And then on Instagram, I have two Instagrams. I just started my own personal Instagram. dr.anna.marie. And then we have our at Happy Whole You Instagram as well.
Wonderful. Well, I feel like I could talk to you all day, and I do think we have a tremendous amount in common. So thank you so much, Dr. Anna Marie, for being here and providing so much wisdom and enlightenment in this episode. I know that it's going to resonate with our listeners.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And thank you all for listening. I know there's a million choices when it comes to the podcast you choose to listen to. So thank you for choosing Becoming More Me. Thanks for spending some of your precious time with me today. If you loved this episode, please leave a review or simply share it with someone else who would get great benefit from it too. If you share on social media, please tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. And if your inner critic is still trying to argue with those facts, hit me up. We've got work to do.